Well, hello there, ladies and gents. I'm Tammy Sipnewski, and thank you so much for popping by my channel for another LumaFusion tutorial. All the audio you're listening to is going to be captured with that best FU lavalier microphone. The thing is huge, so I hope it sounds good. Today's video is a request by Nadash Ragab, one of my subscribers, and he asked that I teach you guys how to do an overlay on your video, like with stars or plus symbols, and this is great because I'd already planned to do this video. This is one of the elements that you're going to need to know when I do the title intro tutorial. Now, if I didn't teach you all of these things independently, when I did the intro tutorial, that thing would take like 2 hours. So each time I'm doing a video, we're building on all of the different elements that we're going to bring together when we finally do the intros for our channels together. I think it's going to be really amazing. But remember, your intro should really not be any longer than 10 or 12 seconds. Any longer than that, just overkill. So before we jump into the overhead camera view of my iPad, I just want to let you know that this is going to be along the same lines of the title box overlay that I taught you guys a few videos ago. This is going to be a lot of chroma keying. It's going to be a lot of tap work and a lot of sending video out and bringing it back. There's going to be a lot of work put into this one. But the good news is, once you have it saved and done, you're done. You're only ever going to have to make that video once. And once you have it saved in your files, you can put it on any video that you want. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Okay, the only thing that we're going to be working with in this particular video is titles. So let's go ahead, grab the titles, and as usual, we are going to grab the plain white title and throw that on our main timeline. We're just going to stretch that out a little bit. Let's go ahead and double click on that to edit that. Now we're immediately going to take this title and just throw it away in the garbage. What we want to do is add a shape. Hit the plus symbol and choose shape. So let's go ahead and change the color of this shape to green. Close that out and make that the size of the entire box. Now we're going to back out of this. So let's go ahead and grab another plain white title, and we're going to drop that right on top of our main timeline. So we're going to double click that to edit that. Same thing here, guys. We're going to throw this one right away. Hit the plus symbol again and choose shape. So here you have to make your decision. What is it that you want to have overlaid on your title? Do you want to have a bunch of little diamonds? Do you want to have a bunch of little stars? Do you want to have a bunch of circles? What we're going to do is make a bunch of plus symbols. So let's go ahead and choose the 3-pixel line. And what we want to do is just basically duplicate that. So let's go ahead and just choose duplicate. So what I want to do, because I want to keep these consistent, I want to move this by rotating it, not with my hand, but I'm going to rotate it over here on the right hand side of the screen. And we want to get that to 90 degrees. And that is going to make a perfect plus symbol. Now we want to move this down and center it a little better, and we're going to do that by using the X and Y axis. So remember, the Y axis is up and down and the X axis is across. So let's go ahead and just straighten this thing out here so that we can make the most perfect plus symbol that we can possibly have. And how we do that is to line all the dots up just so. So what we want to do is continue to duplicate this over and over and over again. So let's go ahead, and by the way, you can't duplicate this plus symbol, you can only duplicate the line. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out again and do the same thing over again. We're going to duplicate that, go ahead and duplicate that again, and now we're going to rotate that exactly 180 degrees. So what we want to do is continue to duplicate this again and again, and we're always just going to move it with this right here. We're never going to touch it with our hands because we want this to be as consistent as possible. And now we want to rotate this 180 degrees. Perfect. Okay, so what we want to do now is make all of these equidistant on the screen. So I want to make sure that we move move this right to the edge where it's perfectly in the corner. Now we're going to grab the next shape, and don't try to hit the shapes right here on the screen. That's how you're accidentally going to mess up and move it. Just come and whatever shape it is that you want to deal with, grab it from this section of the screen. So what I want to do here is now move this by the X, and I want to move that over to where all the sides are connecting perfectly. You see these dots should be exactly on the end of the X's, and we want those X's basically to touch the end of the screen. Perfect. So what we want to do now is adjust this shape. We want to get this over a little bit as well, so we're going to move that on the X-axis as well until everything is just absolutely perfect. That looks really good. And now I want to move this exactly in the middle here. Okay, so what we want to do now is just choose one of these and just duplicate it. Is drag that down by the Y scale. And what we want to do is completely drag that all the way down to the bottom until we're nestled here. And we're going to duplicate that. And now we're going to rotate that as close as we can get it to 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and duplicate that again. Now same thing, we're going to move that over, is pull this over and send it right to the end. Okay, now what we want to do is same thing here. We're going to rotate this out as close as we can get it to 180 degrees. You want to grab this one now, and we're going to rotate this out. We're just going to bring that all the way to the end to where it's just snugged up against the corner here. That looks good. So now what we want to do is add 2 crosses right in the middle here. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate that one. We're going to move it up by the Y-axis, move it over by the X-axis, and we're going to put it exactly right in the middle of everything. So it's going to be right in the middle of these and right in the middle of these. And duplicate that. So now what we want to do is rotate that. I think I might need a new head on this pencil here. That looks good. So now we are going to duplicate that again. We're almost done with one of the main elements. Same thing here, we want to get this as close as we can in the middle here. Now we're going to duplicate this element again, and we are going to rotate this out close as we can get it to 90 degrees. I think that looks pretty perfect. Okay, so now here comes a lot of the tapping and a lot of the hard part. So let's go ahead and close this down for a second. So you see every single shape here, every single shape is one line that's in this box. We have to chroma key every single one of these lines. Every single one of these lines we must chroma key. So let's go ahead and just start from the top, and we're just going to hit Color and Effects, the key, and green screen. And we are just going to tune this as close as we can get it to the lines. We're not going to know how it looks until we actually overlay it onto one of our videos. But normally we don't go too wrong with the hue range here for the LumaFusion recommendation, so we're going to leave it like that. Okay, good. So let's go back to our main elements where we have all of these lines stored. And how we get back there is we just hit this T, and that's going to bring us back there. So we're going to close this by tapping that line. So we need to make every single shape here. We need to choose it and select it and make it just a green screen or chroma key with that key element. But what we're going to do is just do one, and we're going to basically copy and paste the attributes from there. So go to chroma key. First I went to Color and Effects, then I went to the key, and now I'm going to choose green screen. And we're just going to dial in all of these to where LumaFusion recommends for them to be. So what I want to do here is hit this little keyboard and hit copy. So that is going to copy the attributes that I just posted to this particular line. So what I'm going to do is go back to the other lines, and how I do that is I hit the T down here at the bottom for typeface. I'm going to come to the other line and just hit the clipboard and hit paste. Now I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to hit the clipboard and hit paste. Next shape, clipboard, paste. Next one, clipboard, paste. Next shape, clipboard, paste. And we are going to continue up this entire line of shapes until everything has been appointed as a green screen element. Okay, so let's back out of that. Okay, so when we come out of it, this is what the screen is going to look like. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to leave this as your screen. We're going to fix this so that it looks a little more cooler. So let's go ahead and we're going to duplicate this line a couple of times. So the way that we duplicate this layer is by hitting the plus button at the very bottom of the screen. And we're going to stack that on top of that. Duplicate it again, and we are going to stack that on top again, and we're going to duplicate it just one more time. But there's something funky we're going to do with the very topmost layer. You'll find out when we get there. So let's go ahead and go to the bottom layer and double click that so that we can edit it. Let's go to frame and fit. And what we want to do is bring this size down to 65%. Okay, so what we want to do here is rotate this. And we can rotate it by hand, that's no big deal. Just get it as close to 90 as you can. This looks good. We might come back and maneuver it again. We just want it to look good. Go to frame and fit. Same thing, we're going to pull the size of this down to 65%. And that's what we're going to do with every single layer. And the same thing here, we're going to rotate this out. Just move this one until everything looks like it's pretty much even with everything else. Okay, so let's go to the third layer. Double click that. I'm going to bring this down to the 65%. And we're going to rotate this out as close as we can get it to the 90%. There we go, 90%. And we are going to drop this as the final layer right there. We're missing one star right here. All we need is one more cross right here, and this is going to be awesome. So what we want to do, we want to back out of this. We're going to go to the top layer, double click that, and what we're going to do is go over to the titles. Okay, the very first one, we are going to erase all of these but two. So just go ahead and start throwing some of this in the garbage here. There we go. So let's go ahead and go to frame and fit on this one. We're going to shrink this down to the 65% as well. And we are going to basically just finish off the last little plus symbol right there. And if you want to move these up ever so slightly over here to make the bottom just a little more visible, we absolutely can do that. Okay, so what we need to do here is to make a decision. Do we think that those plus symbols are big enough? I think they are. I think we're going to put them on a video and shrink them down and move them to the side. But if you want additional plus symbols, if you don't think that these are, scattered across the screen enough, you can always do exactly what we did in an additional video line. So what we're going to do to save this as its own video line is we are going to send this to either our photo roll or our iCloud drive. I sent everything to my iCloud drive, 6 seconds long. If you want to make this significantly longer, you may, but I think that this is long enough. So let's go ahead and we are going to save this to either our iCloud drive or our photo roll. So click on the share button and choose movie. And now we're going to send it to either the photo roll or the iCloud drive. I save everything to my iCloud drive. So we have an option here to save it in the highest most resolution, which is 4K. I don't film in 4K, I only film in HD. So for me, the HD format is going to be plenty enough. But if you're using a camera that films in 4K and you want to have that little bit of an extra option to have this image in 4K as well, you can go ahead and make that into 4K resolution. But I'm going to keep it in high def. So I'm going to go and hit the share button, and it's going to ask us what we want to name it, and I'm going to put shape overlay plus symbols, and I'm going to share that to my iCloud drive. Now what I'm going to do is retrieve that from my iCloud drive, throw it over a video. All right, now it's going to ask me what file folder I want to send it to, and my gear channel, that's where I want to send it. And right now that is sitting in my file folder in my gear channel as its own little movie. But of course, I'm going to keep this as well. So what I want to do is hit the plus symbol here, and this is going to be saved as shape overlay. And what I'm going to do is just bring up another little video that I have here, and I just want to drop that on top of it to see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and retrieve that from my iCloud drive. Shape overlay plus symbol, there we go. I want to send this right back to LumaFusion. Okay, so what we're going to do is just grab this and throw it right down. So to get this overlaid on our video, what we have to do is double click it and go over to the key, hit green screen, and here we're going to just basically set the ranges here. And what we're going to do is set the ranges right here. What looks best? And I think that looks best. So let's go ahead and just back out of that. And don't forget, being that this is a movie, just a thing, we can duplicate it. So let's say if we wanted to make it longer, we absolutely could make that longer. Let me just erase that out. If we didn't want it to cover the whole entire screen, what I could do is double click it, and we can go to frame and fit, and we can move this in any position that we want. So let's say I just wanted them up in the corner like that, and I just wanted it to play across like that, or if I wanted to make it even smaller, I absolutely could. Spin it like that. Oh, it looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and see how that looks. I think that looks pretty cool.